The FBI going after a group they describe as violent Islamic extremists. When agents raided this Dearborn warehouse, the leader of that group did not go down without a fight. After a 2-year investigation, FBI agents raid this Dearborn warehouse, prepared that the men inside could be armed and dangerous. While some surrendered, Luqman Ameen Abdullah, also known as Christopher Thomas, pulled out a gun and shot at agents. Agents shot back and killed Abdullah. Abdullah is said to be the leader of a radical fundamentalist group who regularly preached hatred and wanted to overthrow the government.
Muslims are not terrorists.
Deshaun Brewer calls the accused criminals brothers. He frequented the Al-Haq Mosque on Claremont in Detroit, where Abdullah was the imam. According to the FBI complaint, many in Abdullah's group, known as Ummah, the Brotherhood, are African-American men who converted to Islam while serving in prison.
Especially in this, community right here alone. Just lost a great man that feeds the people out of his own money.
According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, Abdullah and some of his members did more than that. The 11 men accused of stealing and selling firearms, stealing from shipments, and mail fraud. The complaint says their crimes would help pay for others. At one point, the group had intentions of blowing up the McNamara building.
I've never heard of such. I've never heard of such, and that's all I can say. I've never heard him make any statements even closely affiliated to talking about committing any violence or blowing anything up. He was an American. He was born and raised in America.
The feds alerted Jawad Walid, the head of Michigan's Council on American Islamic Relations, shortly after the raids. Walid is still in shock about what happened to Abdullah, a fellow imam and someone he called a friend over the last 10 years. Walid's also offended by the way his religion is being linked to alleged criminal acts.
Charges would have nothing to do with linkage to religion, it being linked to Islam. So that was very bothersome.
I spoke to the owner of Dearborn Properties, who had been leasing out the building to the tenants for less than a year. He says that they were ideal. They always paid their bills on time. There was nothing to indicate there was any sort of criminal activity going on inside. In Dearborn, Taryn Asher, Fox 2 News.
And tonight, Detroit police on heightened alert. This is the scene here at the 10th precinct right now. You can see nobody is coming into this precinct tonight unless they are fully searched. This after a deadly FBI raid earlier today. Tonight, Detroit police at the home of a Detroit mosque called Masjid Al-Haq on Claremont Street. The men inside connected to a radical group known as Ummah, or Brotherhood. They advocate a separate Islamic state in the U.S. and support violence against law enforcement, according to these court documents. Police here after several people came out of the home and assaulted Detroit news photographer Ricardo Thomas, hurting him and breaking about $10,000 worth of equipment. Thomas snapped this photo moments before the assault.
The next thing I know, they're all on top of me. I was kicked and beaten almost every place in my body. I have a bloody lip. I have a split lip.
The incident came after the FBI conducted raids against the group today, one of them at this trucking facility in Dearborn. Most surrendered peacefully, except the leader of the group, 53-year-old Luqman Ameen Abdullah, an imam at the mosque. Investigators say he pulled out his weapon when the raid at the trucking company began. He was killed in a shootout, as was an FBI canine. According to the complaint in the case, the group has a history of violent activity. Charges include possession of stolen goods from interstate transport, mail fraud, illegal possession of firearms, and tampering with vehicle registration numbers. Tonight, police say the son of Luqman Abdullah has vowed revenge, putting police at the 10th precinct on alert because it's in a Muslim neighborhood. As for the assault tonight on Claremont, police say the suspects fled.
They allowed me to go up there, look around a little bit. There's about 7 or 8 guys in there praying, but none of the guys that were doing the assaultive acts on the videotape were up there right now.
You can see the heightened alert at the 10th precinct tonight continues. Everybody coming here, their cars as well, everything being searched. Luqman Abdullah, by the way, was born with the name Christopher Thomas. The feds say many of the men in this group converted to Islam while serving time in prison. 3 of the suspects tonight listed in today's complaint, still on the loose. We're live in Detroit at the 10th precinct. I'm Michael Rosenfield, Channel 7 Action News.
All right, thank you, Michael. A figure from the 1960s and 70s, once known as H. Rap Brown, is said to be the founder of the radical group. He converted to Islam while in prison and changed his name to Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin. We're told his followers want a separate Islamic state under his control, but he's serving a life sentence for murdering 2 police officers in Georgia 9 years ago. And stay with Action News and WXYZ.com for the latest.
The target of this investigation, a fellow who was apparently known as Christopher Thomas and also had a name Luqman Abdullah, was in fact shot to death today when he refused to peacefully surrender during the FBI raid. Apparently in the indictment there's an indication that this was a homegrown terrorism ring that was trying to grow and apparently from federal prison had some influence by a fellow from the 70s, believe it or not. His name, notoriously, was H. Rap Brown, and if I'm not mistaken, he was a part of the Black Panther Party back then. They were hoping, in fact, to start some sort of a separate state, and that a lot of this was going on over a number of years. The indictment indicates they had thefts of interstate shipments, that there were other violent acts going on in this organization, and that's what this was all about. Here is where the shooting actually took place, inside this warehouse here at Miller and Michigan, inside the city of Dearborn. Apparently some sort of operation going on here involving some hauling trucks. And you also have an indication here that there was in fact a police dog that was shot as part of this raid. And so there's a lot more information